Yeah. Well, welcome to the Sports Wrap with George and Ringer, and well, it's Thursday again already.
It is.
How did we get here so quick?
It just kind of zooms by. It starts with Monday, and there you are.
Whew. Yeah, it's crazy. Where do you want to start?
You know, I was sitting around and I was watching a podcast of PJ Fleck.
Huh.
And those guys were talking about all kinds of stuff. What'd you do last summer? And how's your kids? And they were going on and on and on. And I thought, geez, Rear and I get to the heart of the matter a lot quicker than that. But I also noticed that, not that we have to start with PJ, but he's smiling. I don't know why. He's got Michigan the first game of the year. But maybe Rashad Bateman has something to do with it.
Well, if they can get Rashad Bateman back, he'll be smiling even bigger.
Yeah.
I don't think anything happened today, but without, don't take this the wrong way. Without him, they're a different team. With him,
yes.
I should rephrase that. With him, they're a totally different team. That would be, wow. That would be interesting. But we'll see what happens there.
We'll see what happens.
It's. Yeah, well, like I said, what's not to get excited about, and with the opportunity. I mean, he signed with an agent, but they got to understand the rules got changed on him. How else do you do it?
I don't know. I don't know how you open up with a little brown jug game either.
Man.
And it's just, and
it's 2020. That's
it is. It's so screwy. And Michigan is going to have a fine team, and yet I can't help but believe, especially with Rashad Bateman back in the lineup, if he is there, that Minnesota has a shot to knock these guys off. They're going to have them at home, and it's the first game for Michigan too.
Yeah.
And so and I know how you feel so close to Coach Harbaugh, and you'd feel bad for him if he came into Gopherland and got his butt whooped. We'd all celebrate that for a long time.
Yes, we would.
It's I'll tell you, Tanner Morgan. You didn't know him this time last year, and in fact, it was Zach Annisted was the starting quarterback this time. Huh? And then look at what he did. And he lit that thing up. And Bateman and him and Autumn Bell, they are going to have some of the best passing games in the country, and they can match up with pretty much anybody.
Well, I don't want to be the whatever here, but we were saying a lot of positive things about the Vikings 2 weeks ago, and we're probably eating a lot of crow. So I hope that this time we're right. Well, that they got a chance to be very good, because
I'm looking at possibilities. I see very few with the Vikings after 2 weeks, but then again, I see very few for the San Francisco 49ers. They got hammered.
Well, somebody put out on the Twitter, who has more wins at the end of the football season, the Gophers, who play 8 games, or the Vikings, who have played 16? And there's a legitimate concern there. Yeah, I mean, well, we might as well talk about the Vikings as long as we brought it up. But hey. I did not watch a play.
Okay.
I listened to about 10 plays on the radio while I was driving out to the lake. This is my way outside the box. I know Zimmer just signed a contract. He might get fired.
Yeah, he might.
He might get fired because, I just don't know. I mean, the offensive line is not very good. Whatever, and of course the secondary didn't have Dantzler this week, and things just didn't go well.
I started off with a quote, and I mean, I'd like to think I made this up, but I didn't. I stole it. But it says, "Let's face it, the NFL is quarterback driven," and what they were making reference to was all the young running quarterbacks, all these ultra athletes that can do all the rest of this stuff. But I'm going to tell you, Phil Rivers is not that bad. And he came up there and he was, I think he's kind of a man on a mission. He's never really proven himself. He's always had excellent skills.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so, so what does he do? He runs into a young, somewhat weak Viking secondary, and he chops them up.
Phillips Rivers has always been a good quarterback. I just don't know if he had a lot of talent around him in San Diego. I mean, I think he's always been very good. And, of course, a lot of people being very negative right now, not only on Kirk Cousins, and probably well-deserved at this point. And I will admit, I've been one of the biggest supporters of Kirk Cousins. He has looked not very good the last 2 weeks. But another quarterback that's really getting drilled right now is Drew Brees from New Orleans, because they are not happy with the way he's playing. And, Drew's 41 and, father time. And, of course, everybody will say, well, what about Tom Brady? Well, Tom Brady's a little bit of a freak in that stretch.
And it's a long season for Tom Brady, too. And so I look at down on defense, DeForest Buckner, San Francisco got rid of him, and they had to give him to Indianapolis. But he ripped that line up from tackle to tackle, from guard to guard. He was all over the place. He's 6'7", 300 pounds, and he moves like a panther. I mean, you'd be just as soon like wrestling a grizzly bear. And this guy really was on fire on Sunday. And between Phillip Rivers and DeForest Buckner, I think that probably described the whole situation for the Vikings. They just got ripped up on both ends, and it really could be a long season. It was one of the worst Vikings performances in a long time. It was by far the worst performances by Cousins.
So somebody brought up 1984.
Yeah.
And if you have been around as long as we have, and maybe not, but 1984 probably goes down as one of the worst Viking seasons ever. Les Steckel was the head coach.
Yes.
Bud Grant had retired after the 83 season, and Steckel came in, and with a team that, if I remember right, it went to the playoffs in 83, and they went 3-13 or some ungodly thing, and they brought Bud Grant right back in, and I don't know. There was a lot of hope there, a lot of promise early and again, no preseason. And I know we said that last week, but everybody else is in the same boat, and so I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, I am too, and especially now that probably my favorite linebacker is out for the season, and that's going to hurt, because if you took a look at one foundation of the defense, it was the linebacking crew. And, that's the pessimistic gray side. This is going to have an opportunity for somebody to step up. And somebody's going to have to step up in that secondary. Somebody's going to have to step up for that offensive line.
Well, they signed Ikola.
Yeah.
Did they sign him before last week, or was that this week? Because, like I said, it's all running into each other. And then they signed a linebacker today to help with Barr, and they've been trying to sign guys and shore up the defense. Obviously, it starts there, but I wish Zimmer would get himself an offensive lineman or two as well, because we can say it one more time, can I? It all starts up front, boys, and you got to get it
just
done.
Does.
How about your Dallas Cowboys pulling one out of their backsides on Sunday?
They did, didn't they?
I watched two plays on Sunday.
Yes.
The play that set up the game-winning field goal and the field goal. That was the only two plays I watched of any football on Sunday. And they were talking about how Atlanta had choked, and I'm like, what went on? And so then I did get to see a little bit of the highlights Monday or Tuesday. Finally, I got to see the bad onside kick recovery and everything else. And
it was the bad onside kick. Might have been the stupidest play I've ever seen in pro football. Sometimes you see that in high school, kids get confused, even in college. Pros,
shouldn't happen.
That really shouldn't happen. And by that time, I was chuckling. But the one thing that kind of adjusted to me over the weekend was Kansas City. At the end of the game, they have a guy out there that goes and boots a 58-yard field goal. Okay, call a timeoff. He did that 3 times before he won the game. All, over 55, close to 60 yards, and this guy is just popping them, and I'm thinking, there's got to be a certain amount of pressure that builds up with these, and he just collected.
He helped cover that Kansas City probably should have, they're the Super Bowl champs,
Yes.
and then they had to sneak out with one.
They did. But you know,
And they had 3 extra days to prepare. See, all that stuff just got swept underneath the carpet because
It
they
did.
wanted an overtime.
well, I just know that I saw a picture of him being picked up by his teammates, and they were pretty happy with him at the time. So
I'll bet.
you know, he is the toast of he is the
KC.
toast. But you know, I'll tell you, we got another weekend coming up, and we got the Vikings and the Tennessee Titans.
Not good.
Well, no, and you know, it's Ryan Tannehill. I have to admit, a year or so ago, I really didn't know much about this guy too either. But he's a good, big, strong quarterback from Texas A&M. Been there 8-9 years now, so he's a veteran.
Experienced?
He's experienced. He got himself $18 million quarterback contract extension. So what did he do? Well, he's hitting 70% of his passes in 2 games. He's had 6 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. The guy is just hot, and he's got a great command of a team, and he also has the Iron Horse, and that of course is Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry, 6'3", 250-pound. I hesitate to use the word power back, but you know, I'm just trying to think how to measure up and try to tackle him, because he'll sidestep you and go around you. Huh? He is that quick. He is that strong, and he is going to get. He's going to give the Vikings miseries on Sunday, and Zimmer sums it up.
Miseries.
He says we're going to have to get more than one hat on him. Really? You think that, you know, I mean, this guy runs bigger than Bronco Nagurski, about the same size.
Yeah.
And, you know, and not one hat could ever take down Bronco. And I think that's going to be the same way with the Titans. Now, their defense, they can give up some yards. And they have a propensity. They missed 4 or 5 pretty serious tackles last weekend.
Okay.
But
So you mean we might be able to run the football?
Well, that's what you're hoping for.
That's what the Vikings coaching staff was hoping for. So.
I don't know how you pronounce it. Jadeveon?
Yeah.
Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney is a pro edge. He's been hired to fix some of those problems.
Yeah.
They bounce him either end or in the middle.
Reminds me a lot of Jared Allen.
He does.
Jared likes to rush the passer.
Yes.
He didn't like to stop the run.
There is no reason to worry about that run if you can drill that quarterback a couple of times. That's about right. But so it should be a good game. No, it might be a really bad game, because I'll tell you what, Tennessee is really on the hunt. They think they got a good team. They got a good running back. They got a good quarterback. They got a fair offensive team. I think that they're going to go after the Vikings big time.
We should talk a little bit about the injuries from last week.
Whew. I wrote that down on the
MetLife
list.
Stadium in New Jersey is getting a bad name. A couple of 3 ACL injuries, I think, last week in the Giants-Niners game. Saquon Barkley's gone. Bosa's gone. There was one more Niner that went away. So, yeah,
well, you know, like the 49ers, they've lost Kittle, they've lost Bosa, and Garoppolo. These high ankle injuries, you've seen those. Mm-hmm. They can nag all year long.
Yep.
And Christian McCaffrey, Drew Lock, and of course my good friend Anthony Barr. And some of those guys are hurt pretty serious. Bosa's out, Kittle's out, Barkley, he's out.
Done. Yeah, for the season. Yeah.
So, you know, there have been for 2 weeks, and then somebody said, "Oh, this is terrible. They're getting all injured." And he says, "No, you go take a look at September of pretty much any season, and everybody's gonna take a look. Oh, look at all the injuries." But it happens every year about this time.
I agree. So
I'm just looking at I just happened to jot down some of the ratings for week 2. We start with Kansas City, Green Bay, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Seattle, Arizona, Rams, Titans.
Arizona 7?
Well, that's what they have them down there, and the Rams, interesting football team. They seem to want to come back to their prior glory.
They found out that they had to work in the off season. Somebody wasn't just going to hand it to them. Oh, did I say that? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. And the Vikings are rated 25, and the Titans are rated 9th. So it goes on. It goes on and on and on.
0-3. That's what it'll be. I hate to say it, but yeah. So Where you want to go? What, you want to talk a little college football down there? I see you got Coach Prime written down. What?
Coach Prime. Deion Sanders, prime time. He picked up the job over at Jackson State. And he is going to be the head coach at Jackson State. You hadn't heard this story? Okay.
I wish you luck, guys.
When he was introduced, the prime time says, we're going to win. We're going to look good while we're winning. And we're going to have a good time while we win. Okay, so he's I tell you, can't say I was ever a prime time because he flaunted a bit much, but he was a very fine athlete, 2-time All-American out of Florida State. He played, 7-8 years in the NFL. He played 8 or 9 years as a professional baseball player. He even got an appearance in the World Series once, and I do remember that.
Okay.
About, he wasn't banging them dead, but anybody that can play cornerback and professional baseball at the same time has got to have a few things going for him. But he played cornerback, returned punts, returned kickoffs, and occasionally they split him out wide because nobody could keep up with him either.
Good speed, no doubt about it. One of the best cover guys ever.
Yeah.
Too much flash for Tim's liking, however.
Well, he did have a little flash, and so the first thing that came across was he's going to be recruiting some assistant coaches, and they thought Terrell Owens would be a good wide receiver one, and Warren Sapp would be the other for defensive line, and people are just going, but I think that this is an indication of the malarkey that might fly around Jackson State, because I don't think that that's going to happen, but I'm going to guarantee you one thing. If prime time's going to be there, I'm going to keep an eye on Jackson State because they're going to have a good time.
And Jackson State's a one double A FCS, and so they announced this week that the FCS is going to have a playoff starting in April after their seasons and finish up with a championship in May. So a lot of these schools got excited about that, and we'll see what happens with FCS football there. So.
Like we're going to win, and we're going to look good while we're winning, and we're going to have a good time while we win. I never had a coach give me that signal before.
It sounds good.
It sounds good.
Sounds good. A lot of hard work's got to go in there before those W's come, though. So, Well, what do you want to talk about next? Do you want to go? We didn't talk about the Twins last week.
We didn't. We can.
So we probably should make sure we don't lose the Twins this week. And I'm not saying that we had to talk about the Twins every week, but baseball season's only been so long. But Twins in first place as of recording time by a half a game. I guess we got to thank Cleveland for going after the White Sox like they did and taking them down. We can't beat the Pale Hose, but the Cleveland sure has a way of.
They got a couple of pitchers over there that can really shut down everybody, and the Bieber did that too. He's running, I don't know, a 1.3 or a 1.4 ERA. He just blew them all out of the water the other day. So, you got to think. On the other hand, remember Chicago, they beat us for the tiebreaker. So they're up on that. But let's see what happens. Also, this weekend, Cincinnati. That's my favorite National League club. I'm looking forward to them coming to town, and I just feel bad that Homer Bailey's not there to pitch against them and all like that. But it would be nice if they could walk away with those 3 games, and it wouldn't be nice for Cincinnati, but it's certainly be good for the Twins.
Well, and Cincinnati's sitting on the edge of making the playoffs, so they're going to let it all hang out. The Twins are already in. Cincinnati's going to be looking to make sure that they do get in. I think they're in. Even if they didn't win, but I think they're in. But so what do you think of the robe?
Well, I saw the robe last night, and and I looked at it and I thought, oh, what's the matter with Nelson Cruz? And then he says, well, he's got a sore.
He's like me. He's a little old.
A little old, yeah. and then I can't remember who got the home run. I think it was Cave got the home run, and he come in and he put that robe around him, and I thought, that's the way to go, Grandpa. You're still having fun with this.
Well, I saw a comment somewhere, and like I said, I didn't do much reading in the last few days because of the nutso-ness, but Cave said, as I was rounding second base, I was thinking, man, I hope they put the robe on me. Man, I hope they put the robe on me. And, of course, they put the robe on him.
They put the robe on him.
So, you got to do something to keep the excitement up. And like I said, they're coming down the stretch. And it would be great if they were at home for that first playoff series. and it would be even better if they avoided the Yankees.
That's the key. But right now, hey, the Yankees they got really, really hot for a while and pulled them up to the top. They're still 4.5 games out. They've only won 31 games.
Only.
Well, whether no,
Yeah, I know.
no, they got 31 and 29. They don't have as many as the Twins. Twins have what, 32?
Twins got 35 wins.
35.
35 and 22. You even got it written right there, I see.
Oh, they're there.
Yeah, so, yeah, the Twins have been playing. Maheda looked really good the last couple of times out.
He has.
Barrios has looked really good, so I think there's your 1-2 punch. Be great if they could get Odorizzi back, because not so much, in that 3-game series, in that 3-game series, you got to have 3 pitchers. And I don't know where Odorizzi will be at. It'd be great, but I'd be okay with Big Mike pitching too. But he's shown that he deserves the ball. So I think the pitching staff is the best the Twins have had in a long time.
Well, I think it's certainly the best pitching staff since the beginning of the year. I mean, everybody won one, and everybody won one and went and retired. Yeah. It was bad, but everybody seems, and we got Pineda back and Miata. I tell you, what a gift.
Gave up the fireballer, and I was hoping they were right, and they were right.
They were right.
So pretty much the 8 teams in the AL: Tampa Bay, New York, Toronto, Minnesota, Cleveland, and Chicago, the A's and the Astros. That's pretty much the 8 teams in the playoffs.
I think so.
On the other side, looks like Miami, Philadelphia, Atlanta in the East, Chicago Cubs, the Reds, and the Cardinals, and then LA and San Diego, and then Milwaukee's knocking on the door. They might, if they make a run here down the weekend. So we'll see what happens. Remember, those first games will be 3-game series, and I would guess that some of them are starting Tuesday, some of them are starting Wednesday. So
this is just next week.
This is next week. They'll be at the end of the regular season Sunday.
What will I be doing all week?
Let's go to the NBA.
Yes.
I don't know about this Miami Heat team, but I whoever's team I'm on, I don't want to be playing Miami right now.
No, I wouldn't either. And
that includes the LA Lakers, who everybody thinks is the best.
I watched the Celtics play them last night till I fell asleep, and the Celts could just do nothing with them. And they come at them, and the Heat would come back and get 3 or 4 more. They even went ahead a couple times. Heat would come back and nail them again. And they only, how many games have they've lost? 3 games.
2, I think, only.
2. Okay, and each one by very. Well, they only lost 3 points last night, but they just can't get over that hump. And the Heat is hot.
The Heat is hot. Yeah. Tyler Hero, the 20-year-old rookie, he's getting a name for himself. He's so good that Jimmy Butler went out and got his high school jersey and wore it to practice today. So the Heat, I think, are for real. And of course, your Nuggets came back and made it a 2-1 series, and they're ticked off that they're not ahead 2-1.
Well, they are.
So I made the bold prediction tonight as we were walking off the field from football practice with one of my players who's a Laker fan. I told him the Nuggets in 7. I said they're going to do it again. No way!
That would be the third game.
Yeah, he said Lakers in 6. So I'm taking the Nuggets in 7. I think they tie up the series 2-2. I really do. We'll see.
There was a point that LeBron James, over the course of 3-4 minutes, scored 10 points, was grabbing rebounds, and he was controlling the whole game. But he couldn't do it for the whole game. Yeah. And it's just and that again comes with age. He's been doing it for so long, and when he does it better than anybody. But you can't count him on that. And Anthony Davis, well, I'll tell you, there's a pretty remarkable talent in itself. So if the Nuggets are going to win, they're going to have to earn it. But I'm not sure LeBron can save them.
I won't bet against them. I won't bet against the Nuggets, and I won't bet against the Heat. No way.
No.
WNBA, Vegas and Connecticut got started on time. That series 1-1, and Connecticut had Vegas by the short hairs and let them off. So that series 1-1. The Lynx in Seattle had to start 2 days late because Seattle had some inconclusive COVID tests. The Lynx lost a tough one on Tuesday night.
On the buzz.
At the buzzer, 88-86, and they're at halftime right now in Game 2. And we were talking just before we went on the air that they really can't afford to. I don't think they can beat Seattle 3 times in a row.
Tough to do.
If they lose tonight and not go down 2-0, I mean, even if they stay close tonight and lose only by a few points, to win 3 in a row against Seattle would be a monumental task. I don't see it happening. So, NHL, Tampa Bay got Stamkos back last night, and they looked like a totally different team.
They really control, don't they?
So Tampa's up 2-1 on Dallas, and I thought that maybe Dallas was going to win this series, but now that Stamkos is back, I think it's over. I hate to say it that way, but I think it's over. He's that much. He sniped one in last night where even the announcer said there ain't but a handful of guys who could have made that shot, and he's one of them. So you get a player like that back in the middle of the Stanley Cup Finals to add back in your team, your captain. Yeah.
I tell you, I only know what I read, and the people are telling me that it depended so much on the goaltending, and right now Tampa has the goaltending, and
I think they got a little bit of an edge there.
I think they do.
So, let's talk a little high school, if we might.
Yes,
the swimmers and the divers. Just the swimmers from the Falls, 89.5 to 63.5 over Chisholm on Tuesday, and they just swam against Mesabi East just before we went on the air. I don't have a final number score, but the Broncos ended up losing that, and no surprise there. Mesabi East has always had a very good swimming program. Cross country, the girls went out and boys went down to Bagley on Monday to Tuesday they went down there. Girls took second place behind East Grand Forks. Ryan Ford took third. Abby Hutchinson took ninth. Anna Wendells took 10th. So, and then the boys, I think, didn't have a complete team. They came up a couple guys short. So, they'll be at their Heil Pike on Tuesday. 3 teams at 1 o'clock. Let's see if I can remember these off the top of my head. Chisholm, Eveleth, and Lakeview Christian at 1 o'clock, and then MIB, Deer River Northland, and the Falls at 4. But I don't think you can come watch. I'm not sure. Maybe 2. I don't know. Maybe they'll let you in. I don't know. Maybe they'll shoo you away.
At a cross country meet.
Well, the rule is any outdoor activity now that football's back. They said 250 people at a game.
So they give you a number.
They give you a number. And I was told, and I don't know if I heard that the State High School League recommended if you're going to put 250 people in the game, home team 150 tickets, road team 100. So let's say we're going to Moose Lake Willow River on October 9th. Are they going to give us 100 tickets? Are they going to assure us 100 tickets? Well, I don't know if we'll have 100 people that would go necessarily, but 50 might be nice. 50 and 200 is a nice number. So anyway, that's what you can have, 250 people inside the fences.
Well, that brings things up a little bit.
Well, and you figure, you've got 35 kids on the football team and 5 coaches, that's 40 personnel, right? And now you say, okay, you each get 4 tickets. Well, that's 160 right there.
Right.
So Joe Q fan like George here, he's going to be parked outside the fence at 8 a.m. so he can make sure that he can watch the football game. Or he could watch it possibly on KCC TV with the radio station doing it. So who knows?
We'll see what happens.
So the football schedule is this. Start at Moose Lake Willow River on the 9th. Home the next week against Mesabi East. Eveleth Gilbert on the road the 23rd. At home against Virginia the night before Halloween. Go to Two Harbors on November 6th, a Friday, for a 5 o'clock game. And then at home on Thursday the 12th of November against Greenway, probably at 5 o'clock for sure, because we're getting later in the year. And then the playoff games are Tuesday the 17th and Saturday the 21st. And that's the end. So you got that for the schedule. So rotating or alternating home and away. So Broncos start away at Moose Lake Willow River, and then every Friday after that, or possibly Thursday, is going to be a home game. So you can kind of start planning your schedule around that. The volleyball team also got approved at the meeting on Monday. Their first game is at Northwoods on October 13th, which, if I remember right, is a Tuesday. And then their first 3 matches are actually on the road. Their first home one is against Lake of the Woods on the 22nd of October. And unfortunately, you ain't going to get to watch that because no fans at the indoor
Yeah.
events. So the volleyball games, not even the parents
Oh,
getting in to watch that. So
well,
somebody will be up there with an iPad or
can
something.
they sit up there? Can you? I mean, are we going to be able to broadcast any of those KCC games?
They could. Yes, I would guess that the radio station will probably be jumping on a lot of that and being, and they'll work in conjunction with KCC TV to get those on the air. Minnesota State High School League is meeting on Thursday the 1st. They are going to be discussing winter sports, and they will be making a decision on start dates. So a lot of exciting stuff coming from the State High School League, and of course that will answer some of the questions for basketball and hockey and wrestling and coaches and all the other winter sports about when they're going to get started and when they're going to have to be done by and all that stuff. So that stuff's all supposed to come on October 1st. So a lot of stuff going on high school wise that way. So the craziness continues.
It does.
Shall we talk about Gale Sayers?
It's time.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's one of those things. When we were, there are times that I really get upset about being 72, and then there are times when Gale Sayers comes around. And you thought, I watched him play quite a few of those games.
Sure.
And he really was a fantastic person. I mean, the Kansas Comet, and as you know, Comets glow for just a short time. He only played 68 games, which kind of surprised me, over 5 years. And over those 5 years and 2 partials, he was All-Pro 5 times and inducted in the NFL Hall of Fame in 1977 at the age of 34, the youngest inductee ever. The Kansas Comet did this his rookie year. He had 22 touchdowns, 6 in one game, 14 rushing, 6 receiving, 1 putt, and 1 kickoff return. Man, what a weapon to have on your staff. Yeah. But I've got this one story. He was drafted number 4 by Chicago, right behind number 3, who was Dick Butkus.
Not too shabby.
And so in 1963, and you can check the records, and I think it was a preseason game, Chicago was playing Green Bay. And the story, the way I heard it, was actually told in an interview by Forrest Gregg. And he says there was a bang on the door. Bang, 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 and he opened the door, and there was George Halas himself. And he walked in, and he looked around, and he says, "Hi, guys. I hope you're ready, because we're going to kick your ass," and walked out. And nobody had ever, knew about Gale Sayers. Although Kansas, he was All-American down there. But everybody knew about Dick Butkus. They just didn't know how good these guys were going to be. But that was George Halas announcing his draft picks. And I always got the great story. But Gale really didn't get famous, but he wrote a book called Coming in Third. And this was a story about him and his roommate, Brian Piccolo. And that's when this becomes very interesting. So they had a popular TV movie called Brian's Song, and it came out, I don't know, in late 70s. You see this, man, it just tingled you. Okay, so Brian Piccolo was his roommate who got lung cancer and died, but this was the relationship between Brian Piccolo, and he didn't get drafted at all. This white kid, I think he was from Wake Forest, and Gale Sayers, this black man from Kansas City, and from Kansas, and at the time they really still had segregated rooms, so black and white and all that. But Sayers and Piccolo hit it off, became best friends and roommates, and if you haven't seen the movie in a long time, Brian's Song gives you a little bit of faith.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it?
I've seen parts of it, but I've never watched it start to finish.
I tell you right now, we could use some Gale Sayers and we could use some Brian Piccolos, because these guys did it with humor, and it was a racial humor that now people would just. But these guys were best friends, and they would laugh and giggle about that all the time, and he'd say, why you're so fast for me? What? Oh, you've got black magic. Nah, you got white man's legs. And they'd go back and forth. I'd like this all the time. But I'll tell you, if you're a football fan of my age, you think about the Kansas Comet. They don't last very long, but they were bright. And anytime that he got the ball, you know that he could do something with it. And all of these other shifty, quick running backs, he was one of the first. Jimmy Brown was, they figured, was he the best football player I saw growing up? Yeah, pretty much. But Gale Sayers, he was right behind him. There's no two ways about that. 77, he'll be missed. Anyway, go see Brian's Song. You will laugh and cry and really enjoy it. It's a great football movie.
Joe Laurinaitis passed away also on Tuesday, 60 years old. Of course, probably best known as the Animal from the Road Warriors, from tag team wrestling action, WWE and the AWA and all the rest of that stuff. And of course, Minnesota boy, his son played at Wayzata, and
for the Gophers,
and then ended up at Ohio State.
Ohio State, that's right, yeah.
And then eventually made it to the NFL and had a trip there. So tough for him to see him pass away.
Young man.
60 years old is pretty young, and I know this one probably isn't sports related, but one of our colleagues passed away the other day. Oren Simon passed away on Wednesday, and. If you were, a student at Falls High and had him as a math teacher, or you were a basketball player or whatever, he was always there, concerned about you. And I got to know Oren he was one of my colleagues for 4 or 5 years. We were right down the hall from each other, or for a while on top. He was up above me for a while. And he always had a way of saying it, of telling you had to get your act together, but doing it in a very nice way. And he always was a mentor. And I know he went through a tough stretch here the last few months, and hopefully he's in a way better place. Well, I know he's in a way better place. So
he was the announcer for our wrestling meets.
He did
for
wrestling
years
too.
And years,
yes.
And we would have parents' night, and I'd say, Oren, why don't you introduce the parents this time? He says, no. He says, I have no problem with it, but the kids really like it when you do it. And and I just thought, okay, that's fine. But no, Oren was. I taught with Oren for a long time and knew Oren quite well.
Yeah. So, anyway, best to his family.
Yes.
See, you got a wish there too. On the bottom, handwritten in a piece.
This is to a former Bronco great, Karen Doles, class of 2004. She was all conference volleyballer, basketballer. She was a tough kid, and it's her 35th birthday, and she, of course, happens to be my daughter.
Just happens.
So she gets a little shout out on her birthday. She is recovering from this incredible foot injury. So, she's the dean of students down in Onamia High School, and she kind of enjoys it, and I'm real proud of the work that she's done.
Yeah, happy birthday, Karen Flake. I always remember the elbows. They were sharper than ever. It's one of those things that will, some things you never forget. Jerry Worley had his birthday yesterday. Bronco Athletic Hall of Famer. So happy birthday to him, and everything that he gets done and has done for this town. So good for him. What do you got on your shirt today?
Oh, this is, I tell you what, I just grabbed it. I grabbed the black T-shirt, but it happens to be from the Mavericks, and this is not the basketball team. On the other hand, I watched Mark Cuban on TV the other day. He's really quite a character. I like his attitude.
I think 10, 15 years ago when he first came in, he was literally purposefully trying to be over the top. Now I think he gets it, that he doesn't have to be extreme to get everybody's attention. If you say the right things and do the right things, people will pay attention.
Well, he has all that talent and all that money, and so he's got a smile on his face. He seems to be happy with himself, and he has some values that I think I could go along with. Also, Dallas is going to have a very good basketball team next year.
Luka Doncic said to work around for the next how many ever years could be. Of course, who knows? People, not that Cuban would not spend the money, but some of these other places, they get the super teams, and I think, I'll say it, it's ruining the NBA. that these super teams are yeah, it's no fun.
Well, it is, and you take a look at a Mavericks game. Who's sitting at the end of the bench enjoying this, or sitting right now in the first row? It's Mark Cuban, and so he's enjoying his basketball team. I don't know as he's second guessing the coaches, everybody that comes in and pays for a ticket.
I think he used to. I don't think he does it anymore.
No.
I don't think it's in his dossier. Should mention before we wrap it up here, before I forget that tomorrow night or tonight, Friday night, whenever you watch it on YouTube. Midco Channel 7, the next Bronco Classic will be coming up, and I believe, help me make sure that I'm getting this right now because I'm pooped out, but I think it's the 99 game. They watched 95 last week, right?
95 last week.
95 against Denfeld last week. This week it'll be 99. It'll be against Greenway in the section championship game played at Sports Stadium.
Oh, yes.
And lots of good memories there. That was my first year with the varsity, and so we had some pretty talented kids that year, and so we'll see what happens. And of course, we're going to have to make some decisions, George, about if there's a football season and on Friday night there's games. Are we going to continue this? So we'll have to see. Well, after we hit the pause button here or the stop button, we'll discuss what needs to occur.
I think we might have just cracked a little bit of an egg here because there's an awful lot of guys that like watching this, and
okay,
so
you guys who enjoy that the egg's been cracked have to remember now that Tim's in the middle of a football season where you didn't think that there was going to be any football season before. So.
And you guys remember what he's like during football season.
Woo!
Yeah.
I'm a lot older now. I've calmed.
That's right. Besides, his wife doesn't put up with that stuff anymore.
I'm surprised how patient she has been.
Yes.
It's been interesting. But again, 2 weeks from tonight, when you watch this, possibly for the first time, it will be live Bronco football from Willow River, 7:00 game down at Willow River. So we'll get to see where this team is at in a big hurry because obviously Moose Lake, the perennial favorite in Section 7-2A. I think they've only went to state, won the Section 7-2A title like 14 times in the last 16 seasons or some incredible number like that. So we're going to find out right off the bat where the Broncos are, and then they'll get Mesabi East, who knocked them out of the playoffs last year.
I remember them well.
And you remember that well, that game that got over pretty close to midnight down at Mountain Iron Buell. And so the first couple games, and not that any of the other ones are bad because Evelyn and Virginia are always classic teams to play, and Two Harbors and Greenway as well. So you get the Iron Range Conference and Sea Range Conference back in there, and so it's going to be interesting games. A quick 6 games and a quick playoff. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you're going to be riding the bus now.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Stay safe.